Hello, and hope you are well from wherever you're joining me. And today's daf is Bava Metzia Daf 90 Omid A. And thanks for joining me, and let's dive straight in. So, carry on the sentence from the previous daf. The sages taught, in the case of cows that tread on produce for which the work has been completed, but which is threshed again in this manner as part of its preparation to food, or that thresh terum and tithe, which one may not allow his cows to eat, if he muzzles them, he does not violate the prohibition of. What does it mean he does not violate? Bitruma aina over. Truma he does not violate. According to Rashi, the reason is that this is not the usual manner of threshing. Tosfot explain that this process is called it threshing, Deuteronomy 25:4. Yet others state that since it is prohibited to allow one's animal partake of teruma, which is only given to priests and members of the household, this prohibition is not a rule by the prohibition against muzzling, derived. They're not muzzled, but due to the appearance of prohibition, the appearance of prohibition, sometimes permitted actions that might be mistaken by an observer for forbidden conduct were prohibited by the sages to prevent people from unjustifiably suspecting others of misconduct, and so that people will not arrive at the mistaken conclusion that a prohibited action is permitted. Most authorities maintain that action permitted due to the appearance of aggression may not be performed even in private. As observers are unaware that he is acting in a permitted manner, he should bring a piece of that species of produce and hang it in the basket. Bate Rash Kalin, let's see that in Hebrew. Badras Kalin, basket, feed basket, or bags would often be attached to an animal's mouth. And there's a picture here of a horse eating from a burlap nose bag. The other point on basket language apparently derives through a metathesis of the letters of the Greek kautolis, meaning basket, that is by the animal's mouth. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, he does not have to use the same food that the animal is threshing, as he may bring vetches. So what's vetches? Kashinim. Vetch, from Visida Velia, the Latin, is an annual plant from the, I'm not saying this right, Fabaceae legume family. It grows to 10 to 15 centimeters in height. Its seeds are brown, round or oblong and small, 3.5 to 5.5 millimeters wide. Like other legumes, vetch seeds are highly nutritional and easily digested by animals. And there's a picture here of the vetch plant. If you have this Gemara, the cover that I'm using, on page 167. Vetches are found in the Mediterranean region during the winter and spring and can be found in empty soil today, primarily in Arab villages. The plant and its seeds are typically used as animal fodder. The seeds are sometimes soaked overnight in water to soften them. Although vetch is generally used as animal fodder, the seeds are also fit for human consumption, and they have also been eaten in emergency situations as in times of famine. Consequently, vetch must be tithed despite the fact that they were typically given as fodder to the animals of the priest, and hang them for it, as vetches are better for it than anything. And the Gemara is a contradiction against it from a Braita. In the case of cows that tread on produce, Paros Hamarab Sos Bisvua, if cows tread on produce because all of other paths are blocked and their owner does not allow them to eat from the produce, their owner does not violate the prohibition against muzzling, in the Rambam commentary on the Mishnah. Others add that if barley that has been soaked in water is threshed by cows to remove its shells, and the owner does not allow them to eat from the produce, the owner does not transgress the prohibition against muzzling. But due to the appearance of prohibition, he shall place a little of that type of food in a basket around the animal's neck, as explained by Rashi in Rambam Sefer Mishpatim, Hilchos Shekiwa 13:4, Shulchan Aruch Mishpatim 38:8, and the comment of Ramah, and does not violate the prohibition of do not muzzle. But with regard to those which thresh teruma, Paros Hadashos Bizruma V'chulu, if a priest threshed teruma or teruma of the tithe with a cow of an Israelite, and similarly, if one's cow is threshed second time, and the owner does not allow them to eat from the produce, he does not transgress the prohibition against muzzling. With the appearance of the prohibition, he should hang some of that food in the basket around the animal's neck. The Rambam holds in accordance with both answers of the Gemara. Rambam says from Mishpatim Hilchot Kiwut 13:4 and Lechem Mishnah there, Choshen Mitzvah 38:8. And he did not violate the prohibition of do not muzzle. And in the case of a Gentile who threshes with the cow of a Jew, he does not violate the prohibition of do not muzzle, but a Jew who threshes the cow with the cow of a Gentile, this is a Jew who causes the animal suffering, it makes no difference who the owner is or to whom the produce belongs, and to Rabboni Yonatan of Lunel. Does not violate the prohibition of do not muzzle, as it depends on the person who performs the action, not the identity of the animal's owner. This presents a difficulty with regard to the ruling concerning terumot in one bite and the ruling concerning terum in the other bite. And there is similar difficulty with regard to the ruling concerning tithe in one bite and the ruling concerning tithe in another bite. The more comments. Granted, the contradiction between the ruling of concerning terum in one bite and the ruling concerning terum in the other bite is not difficult, as here the ruling in this bite is stated with regard to actual teruma, which may not be fed to a cow, and there the ruling in the bite is stated with regard to growth of teruma, which have the state of teruma by rabbinic law, and therefore is permitted to feed them towards animal, so as not to violate the prohibition against Muslim. And as for the contradiction between the ruling concerning tithe in one bite and the ruling concerning tithe in the other bite, this is difficult. And if you would say that the contradiction between the ruling concerning tithe in one bite and the ruling concerning tithe in the other bite is also not difficult, as here the ruling in this bite is stated with regard to the actual tithe, which may not be fed to a cow, but there the ruling in that bite is stated with regard to growth of tithe, the state of tithe by rabbinic law, and therefore it is permitted to feed them towards animal or not to violate the prohibition against Muslim. This answer cannot be accepted. The reason is that granted the growth of teruma are considered like teruma by rabbinic law, the dule teruma, the growth of teruma are not non-sacred, but the sages decree that they would be forbidden to non-priests as teruma, so that priests would not leave ritually impure teruma in their possession. Some maintain that by rabbinic law, the growth of teruma are considered like teruma in all regards, and that's from the Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Teruma 11:21. See the Raiva there by rabbinic law, but the growth of tithe are non-sacred foods. And then in the Mishnah Teruma 9:4, the growth of untithed produce, the dule tevel, with regard to one who sows untithed produce, to say to penalize him by requiring him to collect the seeds if possible. This is enacted this decree due to the teruma of the tithe and regular teruma contained in untithed produce. If the produce has sprouted, he is not required to uproot it. The Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Maaseh 6:6, and the growth of the second tithe are non-sacred. With regard to one who sowed second tithe and they haven't been brought into Jerusalem, his growth are also second tithe, and if he sowed before the fruit entered Jerusalem, his growth are non-sacred. It's in the Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Maaseh 6:15. We'll suggest a different answer. Well, this is not difficult. The ruling of this brisa is stated with regard to the third tithe, when consider the owner's property, whereas the ruling of the brisa is stated with regard to second tithe, which is a property of the temple treasury. What's the footnote? Maaseh Mamon Gavoa. The second tithe belongs to God, and therefore it cannot be used to betroth a woman, cannot be acquired as a gift, and cannot be exchanged for another or used as a pledge. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Bava Metzia Daf 3:17. And if you wish, see that both this ruling and that ruling is stated with regard to second tithe, and it is not difficult. But the ruling of this brisa, according to which it is prohibited to feed it to the animal, is in accordance with the opinion of Bava Metzia, while the ruling of that brisa, which says that one may feed it to the animal, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara elaborates. This brisa is in accordance with the opinion of Bava Metzia, who says the second tithe property belongs to the Most High. Some suggest that the third tithe can not be fed to one's animal because it includes room of the tithe, which is permitted only to priests, whereas the second tithe does not contain any element that is counted to ritual, where the owner has only the right to eat the food and therefore may not allow his cow consume it. And therefore he may not let his cow consume it, whereas that brisa is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says the second tithe is non-sacred property. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances of a cow that threshes tithe? Tithe are usually separated only after the produce has been threshed and collected into a pile. The Gemara answers, it's referring to a case where the separation tithe performed by the owner preceded the separation of the teruma at the stage when the produce was still on the stalks. Gemara further asks, and according to the explanation of the Brisa, that permits feeding this produce to one's animals according to the opinion of Bava Yehuda, i.e., as referring to second tithe, how is the consumption of this tithe permitted before entering Jerusalem, but one is required to bring second tithe within the city wall? And the Gemara answers, this is referring to a case where he threshed inside the wall of Beit Pagai. There are several opinions with regard to the exact location of this Beit Pagai. There were two places called Beit Pagai. Some sources said the Beit Pagai mentioned here, as elsewhere, is derived from the Greek phago, meaning to eat. In light of this, Beit Pagai is a general reference to a place where one is allowed to eat offerings, i.e. within the walls of Jerusalem. Rabbi Binyamin Mustafia. Other sources indicate that apparently the name of a neighborhood in Jerusalem named after fig blossoms. The outer wall of Jerusalem is enclosed in a semi-rural suburb. If you wish, say, a different answer to the original contradiction between the Braitot, this is not difficult. Here the ruling in this Braitot is stated with regard to definite tithe, which may not be fed to a cow, whereas there the ruling in that Braitot is stated with regard to doubtfully tithe produce, demai. What demai? Demai is produce or fruit prepared from produce which was purchased from one who may not have separated the very tithes as required by halacha. The literal meaning of the word demai is suspicion, a produce about which there is a suspicion that tithes were not properly separated from it. In the Second Temple period, the sage decreed the produce would be considered as having uncertain status, even if the owner claimed that he had separated the tithes. Therefore, the buyer of this produce must tithe himself. Nevertheless, since it was probable that the produce was in fact tithe, certain leniencies were permitted with regard to eating and using doubtfully tithe produce, from which one is required to separate tithe by the Gemara comments, now that you arrived at this answer, either this bright is referring to demai, the contradiction between the ruling of this bright concerning Turim and the ruling of that bright concerning Turim is also not difficult, as one can likewise say that here the ruling of this bright is stated with regard to definite Turuma, and there the ruling of that bright is stated with regard to Turuma of demai. The Gemara asks, granted, with regard to the demai of tithe, there is such a concept as sage decree that one must separate tithe from doubtfully tithe produce. But with regard to the demai of teruma, is there teruma of this kind? But isn't taught in the Brisa, he Yochanan the high priest also know the declaration of tithes, Deuteronomy 26:12-19. So what does that mean? Vidu Mas is the declaration of tithe. This declaration was pronounced on the last day of Passover in the 4th and 7th year of the sabbatical cycles. It states that one's obligations with regard to tithing with its produce have been properly fulfilled. The text of this declaration appeared in Deuteronomy 26:13-15. During the Second Temple period, Yochanan the high priest discontinued the practice of reciting the declaration due to concern that the agricultural halacha were not being properly observed, and therefore many of those who had issued the declaration would not be speaking the truth. During the time of Yochanan the high priest, the court investigated and discovered that although the halachot of roasted teruma were observed by all, some people were negligent with regard to the separation of the first tithe and the teruma of the tithe. From that point on, the sage decreed that only individuals established as reliable with regard to tithe, known as chaverim, are believed concerning tithe. The produce of other people is considered doubtfully tithe, and they are not believed if they say that they set aside tithe in the proper manner. This produce is called demai. Rambam Sefer Zerayim, Hilchot Maaseh 9:1. Due to fear that the agricultural halacha were not being properly observed, and the declaration that one has separated his tithe in accordance with Torah law would therefore be false, and he decreed that one must separate the demai of tithe from the produce of one who is unreliable with regard to tithe. He issued this decree because he sent messengers throughout all the borders of Eretz Yisrael and saw that they would separate only great teruma alone, not tithes. Shlo hayu mafrishin ela teruma gedola. Some commentaries explain that people are careful about teruma because if a non-priest eats this produce, this transgression is punishable by death at the hand of heaven, a penalty that does not apply to the first and second tithes. It is true that a similar punishment is given to those who consume truma of the tithe, but people generally assume that if the first tithe has not been separated, then the sanctity of the truma of the tithe does not take effect at all. Certainly, since there is no minimum amount of truma by Torah law, as a single grain exempted tithe, prior people did not mind separating the priestly gifts as the ritva. It is clear from here that Jews were not suspected of neglecting the mitzvah teruma, and therefore there was no need to separate teruma from demai. Rather, the Gemara offers a slightly different answer. It is not difficult here. The ruling in the Brayta is stated with regard to definite teruma of the tithe. Teruma's master, teruma of the tithe. Levites are commanded to separate 1/10 of the tithe given to them and give that to the priest. Numbers 18:26-32. All the halacha applying to teruma also apply to teruma of the tithe. Nowadays, teruma of the tithe must be separated from produce because there is a state of its impurity and therefore cannot be used. Separated by Levi from his tithe and given to the priest. There, the ruling in that Brayta is stated with regard to teruma of the tithe from demai. The sages raised a difficulty before Rav Sheshet. If the animal was eating from the produce it was threshing and was excreting diarrhea, let's see in the Hebrew, mazrezes. What is halacha? What's mazrezes? Haisa ocheles umazrezes. If an animal was put to work with produce that would cause it harm, were it to eat from the produce, or if it was sick and the food would cause discomfort, one may Muslims. That's the Ram Sefer in his bottom. Yochas Kiwad, Herod 13:3, Shulchan Aruch Hashemit 38:7. The Gemara explains the side of the dilemma. Is the reason that one must let the animal eat because the food is good for it, and this produce is evidently not good for it, and therefore the animal should be muzzled to prevent it from harm? Or perhaps the reason for the prohibition against muzzling is that it sees food and suffers when it cannot eat. And this one also sees food and suffers when it cannot eat. Rav Sheshet said to them, you learn the Brayta that provides the answer to your question. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochanan says, Tenisuya Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer. This case is not connected to the dispute between Rabbi Shimon and the rabbis as to whether one may derive the details of halacha from the reasons for prohibitions. It is clear that the reason for this mitzvah is the animal's suffering. The only point of difference is whether the beast must derive benefit from its eating, or whether one is prohibited from causing its suffering by having to see the food. And because the Gemara was able to resolve the dilemma from Rabbi Shimon's opinion, despite the fact that his ruling is not accepted as halacha. And the statement indicates the underlying rationale of this halacha, says the Rosh. One can bring wretches and hang them for it, as wretches are better for it than anything. One can learn from the Brayta that the reason is because the food is good for it. The Gemara friends learn from the Brayta that it is so. The dilemma was raised before the sages. What is halacha with regard to the possibility that a person can say to a Gentile, muzzle my cow and thresh with it? Do we say that when we say the principle of speaking to a Gentile and requesting for him to perform for oneself a task forbidden to a Jew prohibited by a rabbinic decree? Amir and Nachri Shabbos. It is prohibited to instruct the Gentile to perform labor on one's behalf on Shabbat, even if he tells him before Shabbat, and even if he does not need the labor until after Shabbat. This is a rabbinic decree designed to prevent the Kabbalah Shabbat as a day of rest and to prevent people from performing labor themselves. Roman Sefer Zamanim, Hilchos Shabbos 6:1, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 7:2. That's applied only to Shabbat, and the performance of labor is prohibition that entails stoning. But to muzzling, which is merely a regular prohibition, giving an instruction of this kind to a Gentile is not prohibited, or perhaps there's no difference between the prohibition of Shabbat and the prohibitions in this regard. The Gemara suggests, come in here a proof from the aforementioned Brayta. A Gentile who threshes with the cow of a Jew does not violate the prohibition of do not muzzle. One can infer as follows: it is suggested by Torah law that he does not transgress, but there is a prohibition here by rabbinic law. The Gemara refutes this argument. This is no proof. As by right, the Brayta should have stated there is no prohibition here either. But since the time of the Brayta taught in the latter case that the Jew who threshes with the cow of a Gentile does violate the prohibition, he first taught he taught the first clause in similar style with the phrase, he does not violate the prohibition. If so, one can not reach any conclusion from the wording of the Braita. The Gemara suggests comment here as a sent to Shmuel's father halakha inquiry regarding with these oxen, which Gentiles steal and castrate. I'll just leave it there until the next video. Wish you all a good day and take care. All the best. Bye.